All right, guys, so a quick recap of what happened last night at the Hard Knocks night, the Friday night portion of the 2024 Knoxville Nationals. Before we get into it, wanted to say thank you to everybody that has supported the channel this week. This has easily been the biggest week of the Rodman Rundown YouTube channel ever. The video that we put out last night about the starting lineup has over 10,000 views, and I've never had even close to 10,000 views prior to this week. So I want to say thank you to everybody that has supported, all my channel members as well. Definitely, it's crazy to see the growth that has happened this week, and just kind of overall, we're almost at 3,000 subscribers. So if you guys could please hit subscribe, like, and comment down below. It really does help a whole lot. So thank you guys to everybody that's been watching. Now let's talk about what happened last night at the Hard Knocks night. So there were 79 cars signed in, 2 flights qualifying, and then there were 6 heat races, a C main, 2 B mains, and a feature. And it got, started off pretty crazy with Donny Schatz with probably the luckiest break of his entire career, right? And everybody's like, oh, Schatz gets lucky all the time. He's the luckiest guy. It's always rigged for him. In my opinion, being on the Outlaw Tour for 3 years, I feel like he's the most unlucky guy I've ever seen. Like, he draws row 4 of the dash every single time. He's got to have one of the worst pill draw averages for qualifying of all time as well. On the regular season with the Outlaws. So I thought that was hilarious, the people saying that Donny Schatz, it was rigged for him and all that. He definitely got very, very lucky. And I think if that doesn't happen to Donny Schatz and he doesn't, he has to go to the B main, we wouldn't be talking about him being a part of the Nationals feature. Maybe could have drove through the field. I mean, the field, obviously, it's Hard Knocks night. You got 16, you got 26 guys that are not a part of the field that are going to be in the feature of the B main. So a lot of the top dogs are out of it. And he maybe could have drove his way through the field, but it would have been very close. And if he didn't make it, he was going to be in the B main at least and having to come through a really, really stacked, semi-feature. So that was absolutely bonkers. I was sitting in the grandstands when, Johnny mentioned that, Jack Dover was not going to the scales and Donny Schatz, gets the transfer spot or whatever. In the crowd, it was a mix of, people being just pissed off, saying it's rigged. They're booing all over the place. And a lot of people are happy, right? They're happy that Donny Schatz is in the show. And Donny Schatz should be in the show. He's probably the greatest of all time at Knoxville when it comes to the Nationals, and he made his 26th career in a row since 1998, has not missed the show. So Donny Schatz would get the win, and I've got it in green. The top 4 drivers from last night's feature would go on to the back of the feature. Logan Short would lead a couple of laps of the main event. Ultimately would come home in the 2nd position. And then Justin Henderson in the Guy Forbrook Racing number 5X car. We mentioned it last night during the feature lineup video. It has been a year to forget for Justin Henderson. Has, the last couple of years, he's gone through a few rides here and there and has crashed some stuff and has, kind of struggled a little bit. But this has turned things around for him for sure. Guy Forbrook has not ran very many races at all this year and puts it in the Nationals feature. And then, of course, Emerson Axsom, Mr. Cool, acts like he doesn't really care at all to make the feature. I think he only cares if he wins, right? Like, if he doesn't win, he's mad, right? But the young kid from Franklin, Indiana gets the final transfer spot, and it really wasn't contested at all. He was, pretty locked in there the whole race and was solid. So those were the 4 guys that would make it into the feature. Coming up just a bit short and going to the B main here tonight, Lytton Jeffrey, who was solid, 7th to 5th for him. Then you had Cole Macedo, who was very good in this race, 14th to 6th. In the Tarleton Racing 21T. Been a great week for Cole Macedo, obviously announcing that he's a full-time Outlaw next year. And, having a decent run here at the Nationals, going to be in the B main. Going to need some, some luck and some things go his way to transfer to the feature. But still a solid week for a team that usually races primarily in California to come to Knoxville and be this good. It's a testament to that team's success so far. Spencer Baston comes up short. After the Capitani, I thought he was going to be a guy to make the show. 15th to 7th, gave it a great effort, but comes up a little bit there short. And Caleb Johnson is a guy that I am very impressed with here this week. His first time driving the AL Driveline 58 car. Mind you, a car that races maybe 8 times a year, maybe, comes just up a few spots short for the transfer spot, 8th place after starting 13th. Buddy Kofoid, 17th to 19th. What could have been for him? Missed the transfer on the last corner to David Gravel on the prelim night. And now he's going to be buried in the B main later on this evening. Tanner Holmes is a guy to watch for next year. In the pool, if you guys ever do a pool with Corey Nishaw or the dirt track pools, Tanner Holmes next year is a guy that I'm going to be picking. He was solid all week long. Just needs that little bit more, maybe a little luck on his side, and he could be in the feature next year, I think, because he's that fast right now. Skylar G, 11th. Parker Price Miller, hard charge, 22nd to 12th for him. Hunter Schoenberg was 13th. Casey Kane, 14th. 24th to 15th for Danny Dietrich. 11th to 16th for Brenham Crouch. And then behind them, okay, so Brenham Crouch was 16th. 17th was Ayrton Jennison. 18th went to Chris Wyndham. 19th, J.J. Hickle. 20th to Cale Thomas. And then Christopher Traum, Cy Lynch, Blake Hahn, and Austin McCarl would round out the field. Now, here's a couple of things that I wrote down here, just some quick notes. I did not go back and watch the entire race program or anything like that. I just am writing down what I remember from yesterday. I'm sitting in the grandstands watching the racing. Obviously, Schatz, eating his Lucky Charms before the race started that day, had the horseshoe in his pocket, the four-leaf clover, the rabbit's foot, whatever it is. He definitely should be thanking Jack Dover for what happened last night. I mean, absolutely incredible circumstances for that to happen. And I'm not saying it's an inside job at all. I mean, obviously, I think it just happened, right? And it was just lucky. Just very, very lucky for Donny Schatz. The other storyline for me was Austin McCarl breaking down there in the race. He stopped on the backstretch in the middle of the race. He was inside the transfer spots, and the torsion bar was hanging out the rear of the car. The rear end was just destroyed. You could tell he hit the wall. The right side wheel cover on the right rear was bent in, and the rear end was destroyed. And it looked like he had done that a few laps before. For about 4 laps, I was watching him come by, and the car was just shaking out of control down the straightaways. So, man, that's 2 years in a row that McCarl has broken out of a transfer on the Hard Knocks night after being on the pole of the Nationals just a few years ago. So you hate to see that. Austin McCarl, one of my favorite guys in the pit area, will finish 24th and probably going to be in the C main. I think maybe the D. I didn't look at the lineups yet, but he's going to be buried. I'd be surprised if he even tried to race today. Aaron Reitzel, another storyline in this one. So McCarl and Reitzel, the top 2 in Knoxville points. Reitzel scratching from the B main. Didn't even try to race. And he's going to be in the E main tonight. I doubt even races in that one as well. Just not the week people were expecting to see out of Aaron Reitzel. Another guy that started on the front row of the Nationals a few years ago and led laps, and he will not be a part of tonight's main event. Buddy Kofoid, Spencer Baston, and Parker Price Miller all struggling, and all of them showing speed at some point in the week. Spencer ran 5th at the Capitani. Buddy was in a transfer on the last corner on his prelim night, got passed by David Gravel, and Parker Price Miller, every time he's been on the racetrack, has seemingly gone forward, right? So those 3 guys, I had them all in my feature lineup when I made the video earlier this week, and just not the case for them this year. Also, I got Caleb Johnson, Tanner Holmes. I mentioned both of them a moment ago, the 58 and 18T. Those guys, super impressive this week. Caleb Johnson has quite a few laps at this place. Tanner Holmes, on the other hand, does not, but they both were making solid laps. They were both in the top 10 on the Hard Knocks night. And they were both, I would say, relatively close on their prelim nights as well. So it's going to take a miracle, but they're both in the B main. They're going to need some wrecks. They're going to need some of the things to go their way to make the feature. But I think even if they don't make it, it's a solid week for both of them. They've got to be happy with the results. And then the final thing is, who is going to transfer out of tonight's B main event? It is a long race. This is a long B main, the longest B main I've ever seen, right? Here is the lineup for the B main. It's 22 laps. So almost the length of a feature event that we saw on the prelim night. So 3 laps short of a full feature event at a Knoxville prelim night. Brad Sweet and Justin Peck will go from the front row. Then it's going to be James McFadden and Corey Eliason in row number 2. Matt Jewell and David Gravel from row 3. Garrett Williamson and Dusty Zomer in 4. And Brock Zierfoss and Cap Henry in row number 5. So if you had to ask me who the top 4 were going to be out of this race, it's got to be Brad. It's got to be Peck. It's got to be David. Those 3 guys right there, 100%. They've been, I guess David hasn't really been super fast. He's been decent, but he's going to be inside the top 3. The other car, I have no idea, guys. I mean, it could be McFadden. It could be Eliason. I just don't see anybody else behind those guys making it. I really don't, but it is 22 laps. It's a very long race. I don't have any info on who's going to be starting back behind them. I think it's going to be these guys right here, right? Like Linton Jeffrey, Cole Macedo, Spencer Baston. I don't see any of these guys up here getting up there into the top 4, especially with the caliber of drivers that are up there in that area. So if I had to guess, it's going to be Brad Sweet, Justin Peck, David Gravel, and my 4th guy is going to be I think it's going to be James McFadden. I think McFadden makes it, and that'll be 3 out of those 4 from high limit going into the feature and starting there from the 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th positions, and they will make up the 24-car starting field for $190,000 to win later on tonight. So that's a quick recap of what happened yesterday at Hard Knocks night. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I am going to more than likely do a recap of tonight's race tonight after the races because we're driving home tomorrow. It's like a 10-hour drive back home, and I want to get that video out as soon as we can to recap the full feature from the 2024 Knoxville Nationals. So stay tuned to that. And we might also have another How Was Your Night video going as well. So we got more content coming out here on the Knoxville Nationals week. Really appreciate everybody's support. If you're new here from the Dirt Tracker Live today, we appreciate your support as well. Thank you guys for checking out the channel. And we'll talk to you again here very, very soon here on the Rodman Rundown. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.